Welcome to Stuck, Time to Improv. I'm Mary Scott with Business Riff, and I want startups to be wildly successful. Today, we're talking to Matt Luensmann about cost-effective hiring. Thanks for coming, Matt.
Thanks for having me, Mary. It's awesome to be here.
How important is it for startups to know about hiring when it's only them at the beginning?
Hiring new employees is not only the most important, but probably one of the most, if not the most expensive thing that you're ever going to do in the life of your business.
Okay, so how do we go about getting this happening?
Well, I recommend, and I'm biased, but the best way to go about doing this is to partner with a trusted talent partner who has the skills and experience in the recruiting space that can go do all of the legwork for you, that can guide you through the process. Because one of the biggest hurdles is when you're trying to hire someone and you've never done it or you don't do it very often, is you don't really know what you're doing. And the thing that most small business owners don't understand is just because you have an open role doesn't mean that it's not costing you something. Every day that it's open, it's costing you something, and it's more than you think it is.
Okay. So for a startup business, what position typically is the first one they actually have to hire for?
That it just really depends, where you're at and what you're doing, who you might need first. And a lot of times in a small business, the first quote unquote hire that you make is going to probably be somebody on more of a fractional or a part-time or a 1099 basis until you get to the point where you can turn around and convert them to a full-time employee because they've helped you get to a point where not only can you afford
Mhm.
now to have a full-time employee, but you also have enough things for them to do to justify them being a full-time employee.
So usually the first person is someone who can help you with the back office, the scheduling, the making appointments, the social media marketing, those kinds of things, web maintenance.
100%. I really look at it, Mary, as the person who's going to keep you from drowning in your business, that allows you to work on your business.
Right. Right. And you can't do it all. And if you try to do it all, you're not going to make much of a success of yourself because different skills are required for these different jobs, right?
You couldn't have said it better if I said it, Mary. That's one of the biggest things that I see in small business owners and founders is they have to do it all themselves. But the fact of the matter is we can't do everything. We're not good at everything. But the great news is that there's people out there that do everything that you need help with that you don't do well, and you don't have to hire them all full time. In fact, probably 100% of them you can hire on a project or outsourced or fractional basis and save your capital for when you do actually need to hire an employee.
Okay, so that's it. Talk a little bit about why it can be useful to use a recruiter.
Oh, the cost. So let's think about the cost of hiring an employee, right? So not only you have to think about the actual wage that you're going to pay them, but what about any benefits that you're going to give them, right? And I'm talking about back end first because these are unavoidable costs once you have them in the door, right? So you have those back end costs of the benefits, the salary. Then you have to think about the onboarding costs and the cost of training this person, because this person isn't going to come in and train themselves, right? So you have to attribute the person who's going to train them salary to the cost of this hire. So just between that alone, I mean, you're up what, 30, $40,000, right? And
Mhm.
then to kind of go back to what I was talking about early on is that there is a cost to for the role being open, right? So on a smaller scale, it could be less that you don't think it's a big deal, but you start getting to a 200-person company with a role that's open for 3 or 4 months, and you're realistically, and this is for a non-revenue generating role, right? So not sales. You're probably looking at around $200,000 that just cost you, because recruiting, just like accounting or marketing well, or any other specialized skill set, is a specialized skill set. And just because you think you can step in and do it doesn't mean that you're going to do it well. So let's assume, for the purpose of this little illustration, Mary, that you're the founder of your own company and you have, let's just say you have 10 employees already, but you're ready to expand. And you think, I have to do this myself. Well, when you try to do something that you don't know how to do and you're not skilled at, that now becomes your full-time job, right?
Right.
You can't do 2 full-time jobs
Yeah.
at the same time.
Yeah.
So now somebody has to come play founder so that you can play recruiter. And then somebody has to, and then so now you're moving everybody to do a different role that they're not supposed to do, because now you're playing whack-a-mole, right? You put one person out of place, now everybody else is out of place to cover the gaps. So now you have everybody stretched, and now all of your salary costs are technically going towards the cost of getting this new employee that you're trying to get, right? So if all your employees, including you, make $5,000 a month for 1 month for that role to be open, you just technically spent $50,000 to try and find this person. And you're
So,
probably not going to do it in that 1 month window.
right. So it's the cost of the learning curve and the fallout from that. So it can really
Yeah.
save you a lot of money to engage a recruiter who can fine tune by asking you questions what exactly you're looking for. And they're in a position to not only vet people, but to potentially cover all those back office things that you need to be able to do, like benefits and contracts and things like that. So
Yeah,
it's
100%.
definitely
100%.
worthwhile to outsource these kinds of things until you can afford to have an HR department of your own.
Yeah, in case in point, well, the meeting before this one, I was talking with a potential client who needed help finding someone, and they'd had the role open from the end of last year, but they put it up and taken it down and put it up and taken it down because they kept tweaking it to try and figure out, how are we going to best attract this candidate? That's the other issue that you will often run into, is you have an opening and you're like, well, I think this is who I need. But without having somebody being able to guide you and say, okay, so let's fast forward 6 months after this person gets hired. What are you holding them accountable for at their first review? But then also to look at the talent market and say, okay, if you need somebody with this much experience in this space with these 10 skills, there's 3 people who can do it. But if we take these 3 things away, then we get to a more comfortable space of like 40 or 50. Oh, and by the way, here's how much you need to be prepared to pay in salary for this person, because this is how much they could cost.
This has been fascinating, and I'm sure there's lots more tips and information people can get from you if they contact you, which we will put information into the comments. Thank you so much, Matt Luensmann. Do you have any parting thought?
If I can help you find skilled talent, get pointed in the right direction for your company, whatever it is, come find me, and I'd be happy to connect with you.
Thanks again. I'm Mary Scott with Business Riff. I want startups to be wildly successful. And one of the best things you can do to accomplish that is book a synergy call with me at businessriff.com. And join us again next time for Stuck, Time to Improv.